Hello and welcome to the Justice Factor. UDM leader Bantu Holomisa has filed court papers demanding that Finance Minister Nhlanhla Nene immediately suspend Public Investment Corporation head Dan Machila ahead of a disciplinary process. Why should we care? My guest later on in the show is UDM leader Bantu Holomisa. After that discussion, we'll give you two losers of the week. But first, South Africa celebrated Youth Day on June 16. Should we weep or should we smile? The National Youth Development Agency is the government's flagship youth development initiative with an annual budget of more than 400 million rand. We are joined now by the NYDA's chairperson, Sifiso Mtsweni. Mr. Mtsweni, welcome to the show. It's lovely to have you here finally.
Yes.
But I have to ask you, you're failing at your job. Youth unemployment in the first quarter of this year is 38.2%.
Yes. Well, that can't be the failure of the NYDA.
Whose failure?
The people who are supposed to be employing people in this country is the private sector. The private sector has not been employing people in this country. In fact, government is the biggest employer in South Africa. That's why we came up with practical solutions to address the issue of youth unemployment. For instance, as you know, many companies have been looking for government subsidies to say, look, the only way we'll employ young people is that, you know, we'll have a youth wage subsidy and so on. We've come up with a practical solution which the president of a country for the first time has publicly agreed with. If anything, the NYDA is actually doing an splendid job.
So the NYDA, which is supposed to help make sure that these young people get into jobs, has for the past 10 years been looking on, blaming other people, as this number has ratcheted up from 32% in 2009.
Yes. Well, firstly, let's look at those numbers in real terms. There's 3.3 million unemployed young people in South Africa. 400,000 of those are unemployed graduates. Now, the problem here is that we tell young people to go and acquire an education. They go and acquire education. When they come out, there's this demon of experience that has been put there, particularly that keeps unemployed graduates outside. Now, one of the things that we've raised to say, remove experience as an entrance requirement. In that way, that 3.3 million young people who are unemployed will actually go down by 10%. So that's a practical solution. The second thing that we've been raising is to say South Africa is a young country. I mean, less than 60% of the population of South Africa is young people under the age of 35. You look at the job market, it's littered with old people. We said that one of the things that we need to do quite radically is to also introduce a quota system that will see 40% of the market being, young people under the age of 35. So you're saying
I'm running a business and I should fire the older people and take on the young people?
I'm saying you are running a business, you are advertising jobs every day, you open newspapers every day, there's jobs that are being advertised. The problem is that you are actually in the market looking for old people. There was a recently advertised, position of COO, for instance, in Eskom that says you need 20 years experience. When you say you need 20 years experience for such a position, you are literally telling us that you want a white male to be employed there because South Africa only has 24 years experience.
But that's not the same as saying you want experience for someone who's starting out.
But also, I mean, Justice, you want a receptionist. You say you want 5 years experience for a receptionist. We've been answering phones our whole lives. The job of a receptionist is to answer a phone and transfer to the nearest office. So we are saying for entry-level jobs, remove experience. If you want a driver, just employ a driver that has a driver's license.
Let's make it a little bit bigger here. Isn't it the fact that government policy is not allowing business people to start businesses in this country? It seems to me that you're running away from responsibility, and your responsibility is to turn around to Cyril Ramaphosa, the leaders of this government, and say, make this possible that we can start BNBs and so on.
Well, let's start with government policy. Government policy has made it possible for JSE-listed company to have over trillions of rands that they are making in profits. Most of these profits which are going out of the country through capital outflows. So there is a conducive environment. Secondly, on your second question...
You're making it sound like people are not in power here. The ANC is in power.
No.
Why isn't the ANC legislating to stop those monies from leaving the country?
The ANC government's role is to create a conducive environment for economic activity to thrive in our country. In the JSE in our country, there's over 1 trillion rands in profits that are actually going out of the country. Now, you say, what are we not saying? Why are we not speaking to the leadership? I'm saying this weekend, publicly, the President of the Republic of South Africa has agreed with what the young people have been raising. So yes, we've been working very hard. The President has publicly said that experience must be removed as an entrance requirement. The President has actually called out to companies to say, you can't continue trading in our country if you don't employ the majority of the people of this country, which are young people.
Continue to do what
if they continue to do that, then they must withdraw their licenses. What are they doing in our country if they can't employ the majority of its citizens?
withdraw their licenses?
Yes, we must withdraw their license. What are you doing in the country? You cannot just enter the country and make profits and leave. We are saying that there's a big crisis of unemployment in South Africa.
Is that what is happening here? Are you saying BMW with its plant in Roslyn? Are you saying Nissan? Are you saying all these companies are walking in and they can be just have their ability to trade taken away?
No. I'm saying the reason why those particular, but those are international companies, by the way. The reason why they come to this country is to be able to invest in this into this particular country. Now, I'm saying those particular plants that we are talking about, go and look at them and see who's working there. It's old people. Where are the young people? You said young people must go and acquire an education. The young people have acquired an education. What we are simply saying is that at least at the very beginning, let's employ these unemployed graduates, get them into the system, and ensure that in that way we fight unemployment.
Sifiso Mtsweni, can I just... it sounds to me that you're looking at a piece of cake. And instead of saying, we've got 10 million unemployed, 4 million young people unemployed, let's make this cake bigger so that all of us can get in and eat. You're saying, no. Push this once off the cake, let the young people eat.
No. That's not what we are saying, Justice. I think you are deliberately distorting what we are saying. We are saying that currently in South Africa, there's jobs that are being advertised every day. For instance, as you know, a president launched the Youth Employment Service Project, which will see 1 million young people being employed. Who actually came out and said 1 million young people can be employed? It's actually the private sector. There was a CEO initiative that actually led to this Youth Employment Service. But the problem with it is that the private sector wants government to pay them to employ people in this country. And we're saying there's something wrong with that. There is jobs that are there. The problem is that those jobs are keeping young people outside. Those jobs are actually targeting the people who are actually old. Don't fire anybody. There's currently jobs that are advertised. Just give them to young people and don't demand experience out of them. Because if you're saying to them they must get experience, where must they get experience if they're outside of the job market?
Okay. Tell me what the NYDA, except for calling for experience to be waived as a requirement, what is the NYDA strategy to deal with unemployment and the employment of young people?
Well, of course, one of the things is to mainstream youth development within government, within private civil society and the private sector. And one of the key areas that we've been doing is to say, let's look at youth policy in government, because it's not just a question of the NYDA as a structure, but government as a whole. What is it that we are doing for young people in basic and higher education? By the way, who are the first ones publicly to say, after that fees commission by Judge Hare, to say to the president, take that thing and put it in a shredder. What we need to do in South Africa is to take NSFAS, transform it, make it from 350,000 below for those particular young people. So,
you don't believe in process?
No, process is fine, but that process must not produce results that we never asked for. That particular commission was there to look at the modalities.
So you're saying the President of the Republic of South Africa, at the time, Jacob Zuma, starts a process where all stakeholders, and I'm sure including yourself, come in and speak, and then because you don't like the answer, you just throw it away.
No. The problem is that that was an answer of a question that was not asked. That was our argument. The commission was supposed to look at the modalities of providing free education. Instead, what came out was a report that says, let's go and further in-debt young people in this country. Let's go and further enrich banks. Let's take that particular money that government has and give it to the banks. And we rejected that with the contempt that it deserves. Today, as you see, free education is being provided for 90% of all students that are actually in South Africa.
VAT is also up?
Yes. Well, we differed with VAT being taken up.
How are we going to fund this?
No. If you look at the NSFAS system currently, by the way, government has invested a lot of money into the NSFAS system. The problem with the NSFAS system was that it was operating as a loan. So in many instances, it was like a debt collecting institution. What we simply said were two things. Transform NSFAS and make it, a bursary system, not necessarily a loan system. But also we said to them that the private sector must also play a role. It must be taxed. It must be able to play its role. And one of the things that we suggested was a once-off wealth tax that will actually fund free education in our country.
The ANC has been in power for 24 years.
Yes.
People have called for a wealth tax for many, many years. It hasn't done it. So this is nothing new. But I want to ask you one last question. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. You are a member of the National Executive Committee of the African National Congress. For a long time, the NYDA was seen as a little piggy bank for the ANC Youth League. Has that changed? And has the ANC Youth League changed?
Well, the institution has changed. The NYDA has changed. We've been employing the right people into the right positions. That's why the NYDA has been getting clean audits for the last 3 consecutive years. This year we're getting a 4th one. We've been meeting 100% of our key performance areas. We are employing the youngest CEO in the country. We're leading by example. By the way, that CEO is one of the top 10 chartered accountants in the country. So the NYDA has turned the corner. If you come to the NYDA, we don't even ask what political formation you come from. Even ourselves, before I was appointed, I was interviewed publicly. The whole country got to watch and got to hear what is it that I have to offer. Hence, my appointment was actually welcomed by young people in our country. As for the ANC Youth League, the ANC Youth League is going through its own renewal process. It's going to its own conference in September. And I think out of that particular process, you will see young lions roaring again in this country.
Are you saying they're not roaring?
I'm saying young people are going to roar again in this country.
Sifiso Mtsweni, such a pleasure to have you here. I hope to see you again.
Thank you very much.
What's happening at the PIC? Bantu Holomisa tells us all after this.